Hey guys, welcome back. This is Maverick here for another episode of A Place Further Than the Universe. I say that, however, this is actually going to be my second time watching this. If you guys haven't heard recently, my PC died on me, right? It served its good life. I think I've had it since 2010 or something, and I've upgraded along, but anyways, it's been a long time, and so now I'm using my new PC. Unfortunately, I had actually completed recording of the original episode for this, and I've lost out of data on it, right? Because this is entirely new. There's no way for me to back that up, right? So, well, for the sake of completeness, I figured I'd just still watch over it again, but do bear in mind that this is not going to be blind this time. I already know what happens. I've already seen it once. But, as I said, let's just go through it, and I guess I can talk along the way instead. Alright, so let's begin in 3, 2, 1, play. When I first saw this, and I thought they were playing around, but I thought they were playing around actually out in the snow. Oh man, I laughed my ass off when when I first saw the scene, and I was like, I love it because it's directly coming from the last episode where she removed her face mask, right? And that's how you know your family loves you. Right, and then with this we know about Hinata's backstory, right? And anyways, my guess from this going forward was that since there are 3 episodes remaining, right? So from episode 10 to um, from episode 10 all the way to episode 13, I figure it's going to be sort of like going through each of the girls and talking about their backstory or resolving one of their problems, one of the reasons why they come here in the first place, right? So last episode we had Yuzu, who really just wanted friends, right? And so we saw resolved her situation, and these girls are her best friends now, right? And then in this episode, we resolve Hinata's situation, which, again, since I've already watched this, I'm not gonna refrain on spoilers. So, in regards to her being betrayed by her former teammates, right? Or clubmates. And if I were to venture a guess, I would say it would continue on this pattern, and episode 12 would be Shirase, and then episode 13 would go back to Kimari. And I feel like this would be the appropriate order, because the story started with Kimari and it's gonna end with Kimari. And by the way, I love that they changed the animation there so that Kimari's face was still sunburnt. Um, but anyways, as I was saying, right? So, I mean, after all, Kimari is still the main protagonist of the series, right? Of the show. So I think it would only be fair or be right for her to, in a way, end this and come full circle around. So that's why I feel next episode is going to be Shirase, and the last episode's probably going to be Kimari. And hey, if I were to say, I'd even say that the last episode, in Kimari's episode, they probably have gone back to Japan already. Man, that's really fast, isn't it?
その気になれば何年後かには行くべきよね。少なくともみんなはそう思ってる。ただそこはタカゴが消息を絶った場所。決して安全ではない。どうする？
The observatory.
絶対お母さん SNS で拡散してるよ。いいんじゃないですか？そっちの方が中継の宣伝にもなるし。ひなた？
I think they also mentioned in within the sort of the fluff or flair, I guess fluff within the episode, the fluff text, that this postal office, this post box, is the southernmost post box, at least for Japan. Anyway. And the ever vigilant Shirase. All the rage she's been hiding inside. Yeah, she has other things on. So the rest of them are doing some actual science work. If there's any any disappointment I have with this series, it's that in the end, it's not really so much cute girls doing cute things, that in that type of, well, how should I explain this? So for the genre cute girls doing cute things, the type of stuff that I like to watch is when they actually still have show progression in a certain type of skill or a certain type of area or whatnot, right? Whether it be stuff such as music, or for instance, Girls in Panzer, where they're driving tanks, various other stuff as well, like playing Mahjong, or playing cards, whatever it is, right? They still progress and give a lot of trivial information in regards to that. But I guess this series, since there's only 13 episodes, they really don't have time to put too much of those other stuff in here. It's mostly just character development, right? And don't get me wrong, that's great, right? I love the character development in this series. I mean, I really like what I'm seeing so far. It's just that I wish it was longer and they could put a little bit more stuff into it. Actually, I'll explain a little bit about Mahjong in the ending discussion part. And of course, you know, if that was me, I would be probably being like, shut up or get out. Also. Because, you know, the way that Kimari was asking, she basically gave out, you know, what exactly Shirase had. ジャンテ Machan is Mahjong, and then Te is sort of like emperor. So that literally means emperor or king of Mahjong. But I play Mahjong as well, and it's quite a fun game actually. Except that it's definitely not as easy to get set up as, say for instance, cards or whatnot, where you literally only have to have cards. Mahjong is, you know, the cards that you use for it, you know, those little pieces, it's heavy. And you need an actual table and chairs, and then you also... It's quite noisy as well, so... But that's why those that do play typically make it into a situation where, you know, they do it every day, every week, or something like. I should probably pay more attention to the episode, but like I said, since I already watched it before, when I was originally watching this scene, I was like, no, you shouldn't do that, Shirase. Like, I don't care if it's because you care about your friend or whatnot. You shouldn't go over there, man. I mean, you could tell that, but you could still just directly ask her, right? You know, to me, looking over a friend's private personal email is a no-no. バックスター And of course, I'll talk a little bit more about this scene as well at the very end. Because originally, actually, I wasn't all that... Right, if it was just one particular scene, I feel like it wouldn't have been as bad. But then with what she said and what happened later on, that's when you really know, okay, they're assholes, right? And yeah, when I first, well, I guess it doesn't really matter if I first saw this scene or whatnot. But looking at this reminds me that NASA and, you know, some other planetary exploratory projects use the terrain here for testing and training and whatnot. Especially in regards to, for instance, manned missions to the moon or specifically to Mars. Because it faces the same kind of harsh conditions, etc., etc. So they do a lot of studies here to prep for future manned missions to both the moon and Mars.
世界で一番綺麗な水かもね。人が触れることはほとんどないし、雑菌が繁殖するほど気温も上がらないし。いっちまー。あ、ずるっ。どう？私も。本当だ。冷たくて美味しい。体にしみる。しらせちゃんは？後でいい。
I mean, I imagine it just tastes like really, really cold water, but okay.
こちらルンドボークスヘッダの小淵沢です。どうぞ。はい、こちら昭和関東良好です。景色はどうですか？どうぞ。はい、なんかケーキに囲まれてるみたいです。ケーキ？タカ子も言ってた。着いた瞬間、チョコケーキ食べてって。お母さんも。
That does not look like chocolate cake at all, honestly.
こんな感じですか？上手。キマリさん、変な作業は得意ですよね。変じゃないでしょう。これが衛星から見えるんですか？そう。衛星写真とかで位置を特定するのに使うの。結構ちゃんと映るわよ。今撮ってるわけじゃないですよ。ゆうく。あ？
I love how her entire role during this entire series is just trying to contact her boyfriend, try to resolve situations with her boyfriend, whatever.
極楽。どんどん冷えてきましたからね。そしてなんと、じゃーん。次のお湯沸いたら卵焼きにするね。ほんと好きだよな、卵焼き。シンガポールの朝ごはんで山盛り食べてましたもんね。ひなた。水汲みに行くから付き合って。おお。足りない？先使っちゃってごめん。きまりさん。うわ、風あったらマジでやばい。軽く死ねますね。私さ、ずっと考えてた。ひなたと同じだったらどう思うだろうって。ひどい目に遭わされて、でもある日何事もなかったように連絡してきて、もう取り返しはつかないのに謝ってきたりして。平気でいられるわけない。笑ってなんかいられない。しらせは私じゃないだろ。そうだけど。
I mean, that is true. Everybody has their own ways to handle it.
手だけでいい。しらせ余計なことばっか言ってうるさいから。ありがとう。ごめんな。私、多分まだ怖いんだよ。ひなた、怖いんだよ。でも、私たちは手だけでいいって言ってるだろ。連れてきてくれてありがとう。
Now, I think I actually like this scene better in this second watch.
下手くそきしめんか。十分
You know, during this scene, I was completely worried that they would actually, you know, actually do something on live air, right? But thankfully, they were much more, uh, how should I say it, professional? Or at least they didn't do anything to make the airing be affected.
ちゃんは今私たちと最高に楽しくて超充実したそこにいたら絶対できないような
I love how Kimari is normally a klutz, but you know, in this situation, she knows absolutely how to back up. I love how Yuzu is just so excited over this. Like I said, I feel like this scene actually gives me more impact on the second watch. New Year's. Yeah, it's nice to watch it again. Anyways, see you guys after this. And so there we go. This is actually when my PC originally died, while I was doing my recording for the discussion and musings part. But, anyways, so let's just get right into it, right? So anyways, this episode is talking about Hinata. As I said, I do believe that the last 4 episodes are going to focus on each of the girls, sort of go over, you know, their initial reason why they came to Antarctica in the first place, and how they grew from it, if you will, or if they found whatever it was that they were looking for. Now, so in this episode, let's talk about Hinata's situation, right? And like I said, I do believe that those other 3 girls, you know, her former teammates, they are 100% assholes. And Shirase is an absolute bro, or whatever the female equivalent of that is, that she stood up for her in this kind of manner, right? And it takes guts to do that as well, right? It's not easy to especially for Shirase, who's a little bit more shy, to do this kind of thing. And also, I love that they handled it rather reasonably, right? I was saying that originally, when I was first going through this the first time, I was kind of afraid that they would be doing this entire, this entire confrontation live on air, and that would make it awkward for everybody involved, right? So, at least they had the sense to do it before they went on air, maintain a degree of professionalism. But anyways, let's talk about this entire situation, right? Because as I said, when I was first watching it, just an initial scene where I actually feel okay. So let's put it this way. I'm actually not sure how often it's portrayed in anime or manga, but the sort of relationship between a senpai kohai and upperclassmen, lowerclassmen is not really all roses and flowers, right? I feel like for most anime or manga works, especially the shonen kind, we're much more bombarded with the type of a very caring senpai, whether it's male to male, or female to male, or female to female. Anyways, so it's all mostly, at least for most of the works that I know of, it's mostly a sense where the upperclassman takes good care of the lowerclassman, right? And it's a senpai that the other characters can look up to, can strive towards, so on and so forth, right? Now, however, in real life, this is actually a big problem in regards to the respect and the deference you have to give to your upperclassmen. Particularly true in Asian cultures, right? A lot of Asian countries do use the more, I guess, Japanese style of schooling, in a sense, where for more traditional places and for places where they have a bigger emphasis on culture and history, it could even be a situation where the word of an upperclassman is law, right? You would definitely never do anything to piss them off or anything, and that goes for club and in school as well, right? You allow them to have first dibs on whatever it is that they want. Even in you allow them to pick the best work, the easiest work, so on and so forth. And of course, you also, in some cases, you do need to sacrifice your own opportunities in order for them to fulfill theirs, right? On one hand, they are senpais, they are upperclassmen, and on the other hand, within the situation that was portrayed in this episode, yeah, because it's their last year, so give them a chance, right? And unfortunately, that does happen in some competitive sports as well, although generally not as often, right? Because at the end of the day, most people who are on the same team, the thing that they want the most is for the team to win, not for any particular individual individual goals or individual needs, right? So it does happen a little bit less in competitive sports and whatnot, but it still happens to a certain degree. But anyways, the whole point of this preface is that I could totally understand if your peers don't want to stick up to you and go against what an upperclassman is saying, right? If I was in the same situation, and for instance, I was in that same exact situation, and my friends, they pretended that they had nothing to do with this, right? I mean, in this episode, they were sort of edging her on, saying that, hey, your abilities are good, or better than those of the senpais. You should absolutely go for it, right? If they did egg me on, and then later on they said, okay, I have nothing to do with it, I feel like for me, I could still forgive them in this sort of context. Like, there are definitely a lot of ribbing and whatnot, but I'm more of a pragmatist in this kind of matter, and I feel like instead of 4 people getting scolded and having a bad relation with the upperclassmen, it would be, there's no big deal to sort of ostracize 4 instead of just ostracizing 1, right? So I would have been fine if it was just that case, right? Now, however, the thing that did change my mind was immediately after, where they started backstabbing and bad-mouthing her, right? And indeed, Hinata also said that they spread rumors in regards to her. Now, that, of course, is unforgivable. And that really cements the case where it's not just a simple case of not wanting to get into trouble with the upperclassmen, but going so far as to do that, that's definitely backstabbing, right? And there's no way that you can consider them your friends in that sort of situation. And I feel like the most egregious thing actually for me is that after all this time you didn't ask for forgiveness, right? Like, how long has this happened? Since 1 year, 2 year at least, and you've never actually made an effort to reconcile or whatnot, right? And yet right now you have the audacity to show up when when Hinata is about to get famous due to this expedition to Antarctica, right? So that really leads me to believe that they are really just here to sort of latch on to her and gain their 15 minutes of fame or whatnot, right? Sort of, I guess, in a sort of ways similar to Yuzu as well. You know, the friends that she befriended weren't really friends. They just wanted to be associated with someone famous like Yuzu, right? So absolutely, I would say thumbs up for Shirase to telling them to piss off, right? Full applause for that. Although, of course, I guess no, I feel like I don't know. Hinata is probably the type of person who doesn't really like this kind of conflict. She's more, I wouldn't even say timid, but I guess she's just not that forceful when it comes to these kinds of things, right? And I can absolutely understand that. I'm also a person who likes to avoid conflict whenever possible. But in this kind of situation, right, I feel like it's pretty clear cut. She should have probably, had nothing to do with them a long time ago, right? So that is the case for that. Yeah, and since this episode didn't really, talk about anything much else, I figured, just as trivia, those of you guys who have followed me for some time do know that in some cases I do like to throw out some pieces of trivia here and there. I decided to talk a little bit about the Mahjong part, right? Because I feel like Mahjong is something that's not really well understood by particularly Western viewers, right? Especially since, I don't know why, but in the Western world, a lot of times the Mahjong games are actually matching games, like matching tile games, and I have absolutely no idea. When in reality, actual Mahjong is similar to playing a card game, right? Where you need to complete your hands, and then you beat others by, well, in this case, you beat others by completing your hand first. And so, just to sort of like quickly break down the hand that Shirase did win with here. So first of all, she mentioned Ron, right? So Ron basically means that she completed her hand from another player's discarded cards, because in Mahjong, every single round, each player goes around, they pick a new card or a new piece from the stack, and then discard one of theirs from their hand, right? And then other people can use that to complete their own patterns, their own sets. And so Run in this case means that contrary to completed completely by herself, with the last card the last piece being drawn by herself, she instead completed her set by someone else's card. And then the second part is Menhon. And Menhon is actually a combination of two sorts of oh, and by the way, the reason why she calls that out at the very end there is because Mahjong uses an additive system in order to score points. So, completing one type of criteria would give you this amount of points, and then if your hand fits this criteria, it has another set of points, and so on and so forth, right? So you can do combos, basically, and combine lots of different types of patterns together to get a really, really big hand. So, in this case, Menhon is actually a combination of Menzen and Honitsu, which are two different kinds of criteria, if you will. Menzen means that, you complete all the patterns, and with the exception of the very last card, all the other patterns were completed by yourself by drawing a piece every single turn, right? So that means that before she completed her hand, all the other patterns, all the other sets that she completed were drawn by herself. That is Menhon. That is Menzen. And then Honitsu is, I think the easiest way to think of it is a sort of full house, right? So remember when Kimari was talking in that scene where she was like, hey, what's that person with nearer to 5? That is actually one of the suits of the pieces, or suits of the cards, if you will. That is in Mahjong. Mahjong has 3 suits of numbered cards or numbered pieces, and then it also has what we call the name cards, or the kanji cards as well, the word cards, which comprises of one big kanji on the piece. So in this case, Menzen means that, I'm sorry, not Menzen, Honitsu basically means that you only use one type of suit and then you add that with the word cards, with a combination of any kind of word cards, and to make it together, right? So sort of like a full house in a certain sense. Double south basically means that within the word cards, she actually had the south, the kanji for south in there, and so that also gives you a bonus. Using word cards gives you a bonus if you complete your hands with them in your hand. And then at the very end, she's mentioned something called Sandora, which is free Dora. And Dora is a special type of Mahjong rule that's mainly only used in Japan, actually, and that is they have what are called bounty cards. So similar to word cards, where if you have them in your hand, your total points go up. Bounty cards, the bounty changes, and whatever card is in the current bounty, if you have that card in your hand, then you also can increase your total point score, right? So that is how she got all these sort of additions for a total of 16,000 points at the very end. Now, normally, like for a very basic, a very basic way of completing a set and winning, it would be anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000 points, right? So 16,000 is actually really a really lot, really high, I mean. So it could be comparable to, for instance, a full house hand in poker. So yeah, anyways, I don't know how much of that you guys got, but I just figured, it's something I do like to play Mahjong. I play it myself, and I figured it would maybe interest some of you. And if you guys are interested in the game of Mahjong, there's actually an anime slash manga, or manga adapted into anime, and also I believe adapted into live action movie called Saki, right? Which basically deals, it's also cute girls doing cute things. In this context, they're playing Mahjong, right? And I have to admit, it's sort of a bit of a meme anime, a meme series, due to various different things. But if you are interested in this game, I do recommend you guys to check that out. So, anyways, on that note, kind of a long tangent, but back to the series at hand. So, as I said, I do predict that the last two episodes is going to be Shirase and Kimari respectively, and then we can come full circle, right? Especially since in this episode at the very end there, they mentioned that they're going to prepare for the trip to the observatory, or to the place where they want to create an observatory, and also to the place where Shirase's mom actually died back there. So I do believe next episode is going to be Shirase, and then, finally at peace with herself, knowing what exactly caused her mom's death and what she was trying to accomplish, so on and so forth, and seeing for her own eyes what her mom saw. That's probably what's going to be in the next episode. And then for the last one, Kimari, did she actually grow up out of this? Did she actually start moving forward with her life, start grasping her life, started moving, instead of just living day by day, right? I feel like that's probably going to be the stuff going forward. So there we go. That's my review of episode 11 of A Place Further in the Universe. Again, sorry guys that this was not a blind watch, but I can only do it once, and that data is lost forever. So anyways, hope you guys still enjoyed this. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.